this here and welcome to another video. Today we're doing, we are in Hermitcraft Genesis. We are in book 2, Perspective of Skizz, and we are starting on chapter 10. We will see how far we go, and yeah. There are captions that will be available in this video if you are interested in reading along while I, build. But yeah, that's up to you, and we will get right into it. Chapter 10. A groan filled the dimly lit bedroom. Skizz sat up in bed, hearing covers tossed aside. He glanced to his left, seeing others stirring. Impulse was a hearty bolt upright, alarm in his eyes. Haley, the twins, Joel, and the other boys were stretching and yawning. Liam knelt beside a figure lying on the floor. Skizz blinked, moving his gaze toward the hardwood floor. Scar was sprawled on the floor, trembling as Liam helped him sit up. "Are you okay?" Liam asked softly, ignoring the others, who were adjusting to the situation. Jem and Pearl were now wide awake, along with Grian. Eliza frowned by her corner of the room, and Kate was stone still, her dark green eyes wide with horror. There were too many of them. Scar's voice shook as Liam wrapped the hermit into a hug. Tears filled the hermit's eyes as he rested his head on the boy's shoulder. "Too many. Shh, it's okay," Liam assured him, rubbing Scar's back with a hand. "It's only a nightmare." It felt so real. Scar sniffed, taking slow, deep breaths as Grian climbed out of bed, crouching beside Scar. "It's okay." Grian put a hand on the hermit's shoulder. "You're safe now." Scar smiled weakly and nodded. "I thought the living nightmare was bad." "It wasn't fun." Grian shook his head. "No one was dragged in this time, fortunately." "Yeah," Scar chuckled, pulling away from Liam. "I'm okay now, really." Liam smiled, rising to his feet. "Need help getting back into bed, then? It's still pretty late." Scar looked over at the others, his bright green eyes widening with realization. "I'm so sorry." "Don't apologize for something you can't control," Impulse said. He pushed the covers of his bed aside and strode over to the hermit, lifting him off the floor and gently laying him back on the bed. "Besides, one of these days there will be a real threat, and we'll need to be wide awake and alert when it happens." A weak smile formed in Scar's face. "I suppose that's a good point." "You think that will happen?" Grian frowned, his brow furrowed. "I wouldn't throw it out of the realm of possibility," Liam replied. "With the cause in shambles, new leadership might put everyone in this room at risk." Grian closed his eyes, taking a slow, deep breath before he nodded. "Okay." "There's a reason I've become a light sleeper," Liam smiled at the younger hermit. "Long fluctuation. It's not that big a deal." "Not just because of intense nightmares, either." "I am sorry," Scar insisted. "It's not your fault," Impulse urged. "Grian and I are still open to showing you how to fight back against those nightmares." "It felt different," Scar muttered. "Like my other nightmares." "Then I'll find you and help you," Impulse promised. Skizz smiled, seeing the return of the determination in his friend's eyes. There was the impulse, he knew. "So will I." Grian lifted his chin. "Me too," Jem said softly. "Need time to rest," Liam warned. The YouTuber shook her head. "Not when my friends need my help. As long as you don't hurt yourself in the real world, the dream world should be safe enough," Impulse replied. Scar's case was unique. "I'm fine, see?" Scar smirked, sitting up straighter. "Try to get some more rest," Haley said. "You're going to need it tomorrow if you want to help out." "What are you guys working on?" Jem asked curiously. "I'm working with Kate on what we can uncover from her and Skizz's blood samples," Liam reported. "Tango's stopping by to help look over the notes Connor found, and then figuring out a way to stop this restored tech from hurting more people." Liam's eyes strayed over to where Beat-Ups was lying. Still fell asleep. Still not sure how we'll get that to work, Impulse admitted, shuffling his feet on the hardwood floor. I'm sure you'll figure it out, Pearl beamed at the older hermit. Your gadgets have already helped a lot of people. But is it safe for Tango to come here? Impulse frowned. Tyler will make sure he gets here and back to Dog's place safely, Liam nodded. You can count on that. Thank you, Impulse whispered. We've got this taken care of, buddy, Skizz said. This base is secure. No one is getting in or out without us knowing. But what about Robert? Green asked. What if he comes back? What if he hears about the attack? We'll deal with it, Liam replied. Was Dad here? Kate squeaked, all heads turning toward her. He was worried about you, Liza said gently, reaching across the distance between the beds to take the young girl's hand. I heard something happened in that you were a part of the skirmish. But I'm fine, Kate insisted quickly. He knows that, right? He does, Impulse nodded. He knows we won't let anything happen to you. Nothing will happen to me, Kate lifted her chin. Or any of you, no matter if it's Dr. Rhinestone coming after you or the defectors, they won't win. No, they won't, Liam agreed. But it never hurts to be ready and prepared. First, you'll need to get some rest. Clara wants us to do some more training with all the teams in the morning before Tyler and Tango get here. That means you hermits will be training with us. We won't be training outside, will we? Green asked nervously. There is an empty room on the second floor that Clara believes will be safe enough, Liam said. She secured it earlier this evening with Matthias to make sure. What kind of combat are we learning today? Kate asked, looking over at Eliza. Will Eliza be able to come too? She needs at least another week or two to recover first, Haley smiled. Well, someone needs to keep an eye on Bubbles anyway until he wakes up, Eliza assured the girl when Kate's shoulders slumped. But I want you to go with us when we show Scar his new room we made for him. New room? Skizz raised an eyebrow, noticing Scar's face light up at the girl's words. It's fine, Eliza shrugged. Just tell me anything and everything that happens up there, okay? Of course! Kate nearly jumped out of her bed. She looked over at Scar and grinned. You're going to love what we made for you and Jelly while you were gone. I can't wait. Scar smiled. He looked around the room before adding, Speaking of which, where is Jelly? I thought she was with you, Green round. She might be sleeping on or under a couch. Kate sprang to her feet. I'll go check. Let one of us go with you, Blake said calmly, riding out of bed himself. Just to be safe. Not a YouTuber. I don't need extra protection. Blake shook his head. Doesn't matter. No one should be left on their own. Not after what happened to Jem and Pearl earlier today. Okay, Kate nodded, relenting as she made it to the door. It won't take long, though. Suddenly, there was a knock on the front door as Skizz tensed. Kate immediately went for the door, Blake at her heels. Skizz got to his feet and went over to the bedroom door. Peeking out into the hallway, Kate opened the door. Kane was standing outside with a peculiar smile on his face. In his arms was a grumpy, gray and white feline. Jelly! Kate's eyes widened and she scooped the grumpy cat from the man's arms. Where did you find her? Someone tried to take her along as a stowaway. Kane shook his head. So Connor and the kids are safe? Blake asked. They're in a safe place where no one can find them. Kane nodded, glancing over his shoulder warily. I don't blame Carl for wanting to get those three out of here after the attack earlier. Neither do we, Liam said. Thank you for getting her back safely. All in a day's work, the man nodded, closing the door, leaving Kate and Blake in the hallway. Kate scrambled back to the sleepover room, handing over Jelly to her rightful owner as Scar held her close, speaking softly into her ears. Chapter 11. Skizz leaned over the open chest, rummaging through the damaged wooden swords, axes, shields, bows, and crossbows, attempting to find ones that wouldn't break in a hit or two. Clara had asked him to grab some wooden weapons for the teens so that they could practice their combat skills. The bedroom was nearly empty, apart from Eliza, Beat-Ups, and Isaac out in the hallway. And Isaac was out in the hallway. I hope that makes sense. Skizz could hear rustling pages as he looked up. Eliza was reading a book. Or at least, she seemed to be. Might have to use a crafting table for some of these, to fix some of these up, Skizz muttered aloud, grabbing a pile of swords, taking them to the other side of the room. Wouldn't it make sense to put something like unbreaking on them so they wouldn't break so easily? Eliza pondered, looking up from her book. On wooden swords? Skizz frowned, quickly fixing up the wooden weapons. Eliza shrugged. Would mean having to craft less of them, right? Right, but we don't have an infinite amount of unbreaking available, Skizz pointed out, tossing the good as new swords, axes, and shields into a nearby shulker box. Nor do I like the idea of wasting precious lapis on wooden swords. Eliza giggled. You can just mine more, can't you? Not forever, Skizz smirked, picking up the shulker box and putting it away. Lapis isn't as plentiful as it used to be. Right, history. Eliza sighed, giving the YouTuber a smile. How much of that do you know? Skizz shrugged. Just enough to get by, I guess? Yes, there's an infinite amount of worlds in the universe, but there's still a finite amount of precious stone. Of that precious stone. Even villagers have to get it from somewhere. Fair. She placed the book on her lap. You have an unlimited access to wood, at least. Of course. Skizz crossed the room, heading for the door just when he heard a groan. Skizz? What are you doing here? Skizz looked over his shoulder. A bed creaked as Beat-Up sat up, rubbing the sleepers from his eyes. Skizz smiled. Morning, Bubbles. I'm not dreaming, am I? Beat-Up blinked. Astonishment and bewilderment etched on his face. I don't think so, Skizz replied with a chuckle. Then I'm dead. Beat-Up's eyes widened. Don't think that's quite right either, Skizz teased. The hermit tousled the hermit's dark black hair playfully. Then how are you here? Beat-Up gaped, staring at the YouTuber. Impulse told us you were dead. He was, but he came back, Eliza replied, her voice soft and gentle. Dr. Rainstone wanted to try something that she and Dr. Royster were working on. Skizz was the result of those experiments. Wow, Beat-Up's eyes widened. And you're really here? Yep, Skizz grinned, punching the hermit gently in the shoulder. Beat-Up groaned, letting out a chuckle. I'm here to help my friends. I hear they need it. I guess so, with Rhinestone around, Beat-Up mused, pushing the blankets aside. By the way, where are our friends? Most of them are upstairs, Eliza reported, nodding toward the main room. Clara wanted to give them time to practice their combat skills. Liam's in the kitchen, though, Skizz cut in. Clara heard he hadn't reached Stampy or his brother yesterday and wanted him to try again. Why would he need to call Stampy? Beat-Up furrowed his brow. Rose is no longer head of the cause. Skizz leaned back against the wall. We wanted to give him a heads up and ask about Stampy's clone machine. Clone machine, Beat-Up nodded. You're not a clone, are you? Hard to say, Skizz shook his head. The minute I was in Impulse's arms, promising him to keep everyone safe. Next, I feel excruciating pain, trapped in some machine, unable to move. Beat-Up shuddered. It's horrible. She wanted to torture me, and then make Dibble-Dub watch as she brought me back just to do it again. Skizz tensed. She wanted to make Julie's threat real. The color drained from Beat-Up's face. No. Good thing that didn't happen, Eliza said brightly. She didn't get away with it. Where is she now? Beat-Up whispered. We don't know. Skizz lowered his head. She won't win, and neither will anyone trying to hurt my friends. Vito smiled. I'm glad you're back. Me too, Skizz beamed. You should probably get upstairs, Eliza reminded the YouTuber gently. Clara's waiting for you. Right. Skizz pushed himself from the wall, heading for the door. He looked over at B-Dubs as he reached the door. I'll let the others know you're awake. Can't I come? B-Dubs asked, putting his feet onto the hardwood floor. Skizz glanced over at Eliza. I don't want to leave Liz here by herself. I'll be fine, Eliza smiled, putting her hands on top of the book calmly. I'm not their target. I'm just someone who was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Still, you're our friend, Skizz insisted, putting his hand on the door frame. You could let Liam know she's down here, Isaac offered. Skizz jumped. The boy stood beside him with a smile. That way she won't be alone. I guess that works, Skizz nodded, seeing Beat-Up spring up out of bed. I'll meet you by the elevator then? Is that safe? Skizz frowned. Impulse re-rigged the cameras and redstone to make sure that no one but us can use it. Skizz replied reassuringly. We should be good. Okay, Beat-Up grinned. Don't take too long, though. We shouldn't keep them waiting. It should take no more than a minute, Skizz chuckled, jogging toward the kitchen doorway, which was open a crack, letting in the sweet aroma of cake. Skizz pushed the door open a bit more, poking his head into the room. Liam was standing by the window, his back facing the YouTuber. In his right hand, he held a communicator, as the boy looked out the window. Liam? The boy turned to the sound of his voice. At the sound of his voice, Liam's face was unreadable, softening when he saw the YouTuber. What is it? Bubbles, Isaac, and I are headed up to see the others, Skizz reported. I didn't want to leave Eliza down here by herself, so I thought I'd let you know. Thanks, Liam nodded, his gaze distant as he glanced back out the window. Any time, Skizz replied. Any luck on getting in touch with Stanford? Not yet. Rose isn't answering my calls either. Should I let Clara know? I'll tell Clara, Liam sighed, turning to give the YouTuber a smile. You guys should get to have some fun. You've earned it. I'm sure everything's fine, right? Maybe there's a reason they're not answering? Maybe, Liam said softly. At least the communicators are still online. That's good. I hope so. Liam shook his head, placing the device on the counter. Try not to worry about it, okay? I will if you will, Skizz stated firmly. But if you don't get anything by this afternoon, tell someone. I'll do that, Liam promised, looking over his shoulder, giving the YouTuber a smile. Another smile. Somebody smiling. Skizz returned the smile, leaving the doorway as he dashed for the elevator, meeting Beat-Ups and Isaac. Let's see what our friends are up to, shall we? Skizz smirked, pressing the button to the elevator as the gears groaned to life, opening the door, leading into a small compartment. Yet, even as the three of them stepped into the elevator, Skizz couldn't shake the expression on the boy's face. Was it possible Liam was hiding up there? Skizz shook his head. Even if Liam did know something, he knew that what he was doing more than the YouTuber did. If there was a problem, he'd make sure the right people knew about it. Chapter 12. The elevator door opened, revealing the hallway to the second floor of the base. Skizz blinked, stepping out, hearing voices down the hall. You guys certainly have been busy while I was gone. No kidding, Beat-Ups agreed with a chuckle. All of this was built in a few days. By hand? Skizz widened as he started walking toward the voices. How else? We had help, of course, but we managed, Beat-Ups beamed. The YouTuber... Excuse me, I'm messing things up. The girls insisted we get it done and fortified so that we'd have some place to stay that was safe. Right. Skizz nodded, reaching the end of the hall. The door was wide open as he saw Clara and Blake standing near the door. The younger teens were using a few spare wooden swords they'd found on this floor, He could see Impulse standing by the far wall, observing Kate practicing one of the twins. Josh? What was Luke? How were his friends able to tell those two apart? Try to aim a little higher, Impulse replied, his voice floating across the room. Kate glanced at him momentarily. Having more range of motion will make your attacks and defenses more unpredictable to your enemy. Remember, you're not fighting a zombie with a sword here. Her opponent smiled, tauntingly. Are you saying you're smarter than a zombie? Kate raised an eyebrow at the older teen before lunging at him. The boy yelped as he jumped back and let out a chuckle. You made it back. Clara approached the YouTubers. Isaac slipped past beat-ups and jogged into the rain, grabbing a fallen wooden sword that was badly broken. And with a visitor. Hello, beat-ups. Hi, beat-ups grinned. It's good to see you're doing better, Blake said, arriving at Clara's side. Hopefully it stays that way for a while. With Brandstone around, I don't see that happening. Beat-ups shook his head. I'll be ready next time, I promise. Clara smiled at the hermit's statement. Glad to hear it. I'm sure Isaac wouldn't mind practicing with you, if you're up for it. Skizz, could you put the materials you gathered by the wall over there? Yes, ma'am. Skizz pulled out the shulker box, full of weapons he'd brought with him, and pushed it against the wall. He took a moment to examine the rest of the room. Rian and Scar were doing some target practice on target blocks lining the wall. Jim and Pearl were working on blocking maneuvers with Haley and Caleb. Skizz could see the other twin near the window, fiddling with a sword in his hand, swinging it every so often. Skizz smiled, seeing his friends helping each other to get better and inevitably stronger. Anything else that needs doing, Clara? Skizz glanced over at his former protector. Or was she now his protector again? Perhaps he could assume the latter. Then again, she was taking charge and ensuring everyone was safe and accounted for. Eliza and Liam are still downstairs, and I'm assuming Julius is with them. He should be waking up soon. Clara frowned, nodding as she looked down at the shulker box at Skizz's feet. Maybe he needs another dose of the antidote? Would it hurt to try? Skizz suggested. She sighed. No, it doesn't. I guess this variant is a little stronger than the one that contaminated the rivers. Do you want me to do it? Skizz raised an eyebrow. You comfortable with that? He's on our side. Why wouldn't that be a problem? Skizz shrugged. My friends say he's good. What does it matter that he was the guy who killed me? Should, in part, Clara replied, putting a hand on the YouTuber's shoulder. You still have memories of what happened. So did he. Perhaps both of you would appreciate some closure. Skizz sighed. How's everything going up here? Look around. Clara gestured to the large room before them. Beat-ups had already run off with Isaac to join the other two by the window. Josh, or Luke, waved in greeting as Skizz turned back to the woman. All it takes is a little working together, and we can help ensure both Hermit and cause members are safe. But I'm not a hermit, Skizz pointed out. This is transition. Are you sure? Clara smirked. You're part of this family. I say that counts enough. Skizz smiled before he noticed something was missing. Or rather, someone. Where's Joel? Checking in with his protectors, Clara reported. Setting up more cameras and other security measures to ensure no one can get in without our knowing. Not even Kate's father? Skizz snickered. Nope, but I'm happy to see him try. Clara nodded. Any holes in the system found will help us ensure the safety of everyone here. Right. Skizz's eyes gazed back across the room. Excuse me. As Impulse guided Kate's arm in a combat move. His friend was whispering to the girl, so the YouTuber wasn't able to hear what he was saying, but by the way the girl's eyes lit up in excitement was enough for Skizz to beam in pride. Sure, you may not know the girl very well, but she sure reminded him much of himself at her age. He frowned at the thought, crossed his mind. Was that actually his memory, or his host's? Did he ever have any teenage years? He's interested, but did he? It's complicated, okay? It's complicated. Not going into it, but of course. Go ahead and get in there, Claire urged, nudging him back to the present. I can tell you what to. Blake and I will keep an eye on things. I can drop downstairs to check on the other two in 10 minutes. What about Julius? Skizz turned to the woman, a wave of uncertainty crossing over him. I'll give him another dose of the antidote when I go down. Clara nudged the hermit forward. Have some fun. Liam said the same thing. Skizz smirked, giving the woman a nod before bounding across the room toward his best friend. Hey, doubled up. How are things going over here? Pretty well. I just showed Kate a new defensive move. Impulse nodded over at the girl as Kate swung her sword through the air. Impressive, the twin beside her mused with a smile. I'm sure you learned that trick already, didn't you? She turned her head toward the boy. No, actually, I didn't. He smiled. Where did you learn that trick? Sam showed me. Impulse replied calmly. It's one of the things he showed me when I stayed at Lovely World for those few days. Cool. Did he show you any more? Kate's eyes gleamed. Maybe, Impulse said secretively as Skizz giggled. I never knew you could be such a combat master. Skizz teased. Me? A master? Impulse snorted. Please. These kids are even teaching me something new. Kate giggled. The older teen stepped forward. Do you want to practice that trick, Kate? Yes! Kate whirled on the boy as Skizz watched the two of them working together. How do you tell those two twins apart? Skizz whispered to him into Impulse's ear. Impulse smirked. Give it time, you'll figure it out. Impulse nudged him playfully. Come on! They look identical! Skizz pressed. Luke tends to be more offensive than his brother, Impulse noted. He's bold, while Josh is more calculative. Can you see how he's keeping Kate on her toes, playing the offensive game? So that's Luke? Skizz smiled. Yep, Impulse nodded. He's not as patient as Josh is, but I need his help for this lesson. Kate needs some experience and patience, especially after last time. I heard that! Kate shouted. Luke chuckled, stepping aside from one of the girl's sword swings before Kate turned around. Was that good? Excellent! Impulse clapped his hands, approaching the duo. The timing is a little bit off, though, Luke pointed out. Kate punched him in the arm as Luke flinched. What? I could have easily cut you a dozen times. The girl giggled. Then teach me, Sensei. Luke rolled his eyes, looking down at his damaged sword. You both need to work on timing, Impulse told the two of them gently. That's why Clara paired you two together. You could work together well, with time and practice. I did pretty well down there, though, Kate insisted. Just ask Green, or Jem, or Pearl. The Impulse put a hand on her shoulder. I'm not as experienced as they are with fighting, but I do know that there's good potential in both of your strategies. You're doing well. Kate smiled. Good enough to be a protector? I can definitely see that. Impulse encouraged her. He's right. You did pretty good at defense maneuvers. Skizz jumped in. Kind of want to see what you can do when you're on the offense now. She put up a pretty good fight when the aerial abduction happened, Luke pointed out. Thank you! Kate cheered, grinning at the boy. But, Luke added, you need to work on those flying skills a little more first. But I did good, she said. You could do better. Luke's amber eyes flashed with a challenge. When it's safe to practice on, we definitely should try that. I'm down, Kate agreed, looking over at the two hermits. Will you be able to come and watch? I would love to, Impulse nodded. Kate jumped with glee, tackling the hermit into a hug. I'm sure your dad would be proud of how well you're doing. Skizz stood beside his best friend. Kate pulled away from Impulse, looking up at the hermit. She smiled, putting her hands behind her, a flush of pink on her cheeks. We should see if we can get Clara to get a call for you, Impulse said softly. Maybe that will help your father feel more at ease about the recent danger. Can we do it now? Kid's eyes widened hopefully. Skizz looked over his shoulder, seeing that only Blake stood at the front door now. She'd gone downstairs to check on Eliza, Liam, and Julius. Then what are we waiting for? Kate's dark green eyes flashed with determination before she paused. Julius hasn't woken up yet, has he? Not yet. Skizz shook his head. Kate nodded. Her shoulders slumped. It's cruel what she did to him. Like it was cruel what Campbell allowed to happen to Mom. He's in good hands, Impulse assured her. I certainly wouldn't let him go without a fight. The girl smiled. I don't want to say that sentence until I fix it. You think he knows anything? Her eyes looked over at Skizz. Anything about Project Genesis? I haven't tried searching his mind yet, Impulse admitted, fidgeting where he stood. Using those headbands still makes me a little nervous. I could do it, Skizz offered. Impulse smiled. I don't think that'll be necessary. He turned to the teens. Why don't you two do some archery practice? Skizz and I can go see how Julius is doing. And Liam, Skizz bit his bottom lip, glancing toward the window. He couldn't get the expression of the boy's face out of his mind. Why did it seem so familiar? Looks of dread in the boy's eyes. It was fear. The fear he tried to hide. The hermit caught a glimpse of. The time was running out, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. He pushed the questions aside, catching his best friend's raised eyebrow. Skizz shook his head, turning toward the door, hearing Kate's excited voice as she arrived at where Scar and Green were practicing. Everything would be fine. Had to be. Liam would get the answers he needed, the assurance that his friends were okay, that his aunt was still out there, even if behind the scenes, keeping the unraveling threads together for as long as she possibly could. I think that's a perfect spot to end, don't you? Of course, we're on chapter 12, and we got up till chapter 18 for book 2, so we got a little bit left. In Skizz's perspective for you to enjoy, but yeah, now he's officially a hermit. Look at that. Both Joel and Skizz are officially hermits. But, yeah. Look, I had to make that transition somehow. You can't just let it happen all of a sudden, and it's gotta make sense. Yeah. But that's gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Yeah. I'll see you guys in the next one. Whenever that may be. Goodbye.